Hello, and welcome everyone to the conversation. Welcome. How are y'all doing this evening? I hope y'all had a great day. Now, some of you may have seen that a conversation was aired earlier today, and yes, it was. But my guests actually are from West Africa, they're from Nigeria. And so I wanted to have a show so that their family, their friends, their viewers, everyone that is in Nigeria can get a chance to see them because of the time difference, you guys. So, like, it is a huge time difference. So, but just in case if anyone was wondering or trying to figure out, like, wait a minute, did not? Yes, we did. That was the earlier taping. So, and you can expect one of those again next week. So, but again, I just want to welcome everyone to the conversation this evening. I really enjoy seeing everyone time after time, every Wednesday. I really enjoy the comments. I enjoy you guys hanging out with me, gaining the understanding, more insight, and just being aware about different things that are going on. And so, as you know, this month we are definitely talking about males and mental health, the different challenges, the struggles, and the things that they face, within their daily routine, their daily life. That is definitely something that we don't talk a lot about. So I, of course, decided, like, hey, let's talk about this. Let's bring it to the table. Let's see what it's about. Now, if you are not a part of the conversation community and you would like to be a part of the conversation community, hey, you come on, join in. You can be a part of the conversation community by three ways. And yes, I did say three ways. Like it, share it, or make a comment. And then guess what? You are definitely a part. You are a member of the conversation community. So awesome. So as everyone is, has joined in, please tell me, where are you from? As you know, every Wednesday, this is not just a conversation between me and my guests, but also a conversation between the listeners, the conversation community. So whatever questions you have, hey, ask them so the panel can give you some answers. All right. So, but without any further ado, let's get into the conversation. Let's have this discussion. So first off, we're going to have Mr. Roy tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, Andrea, thank you for having me. My name is Roy Johnson, aka the Business Launcher, where I help aspiring and new entrepreneurs get their dreams and visions manifested. Because we all know that so many of us have great ideas, visions, but just have no sense of direction. So that's what I do. One thing that I love to do is just spending time with family, friends, and kind of just living life on the edge because you already know that life tomorrow is not promised to us, and so we must maximize the time that we have on this earth, and that means spending it with the ones that you love. And one fact that people don't know is that I was born with 12 fingers.
Really?
Yes.
Look, you got me on that.
So it definitely is a unique characteristic that sets me apart. So, and I
Hey,
embrace it.
awesome. You know what? That's exactly what you have to do. You gotta lean into those things sometimes, and like you
Right,
say, and
right.
embrace it because it is your makeup. It makes up the total package of who you are. So awesome.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So next, we have Freddie. Freddie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Freddie Noble. I'm from Louisiana, but I'm currently living in Houston, Texas. I'm a business owner. Been in Houston, Texas, 12 years. Divorced father of three girls, so that's definitely always a challenge
Mhm.
with three girls. uh, one thing about it is just like I said, I kind of agree with Mr. Roy. I just believe in living life every day at the fullest. One of my big thing is I don't never want to be on my deathbed saying I wish I would have done something.
Mhm.
So, but with that, that means you do some stupid things too that you have to sit there and recover from. But no, that's one thing about it. I just believe it every day is not promised, and we have to live between the dashes. You got to start
Yes.
date and end day, and you don't. Only people know their end date are the people on death row. Everybody else end date is up in the air. So I believe in living life.
Mhm. Mhm. You know what? That's understandable, and I agree too. I agree with that. You definitely want to live life, and now that's something for me was a challenge, living life because I get caught up on the perception of others, living to please other people, trying to make sure that I'm checking all the boxes of what they want me to do or what they have for me, should I say, or how they want me to present myself. But that has definitely been challenging for me. And so you know what, I applaud you for that. Just and you too, Mr. Roy, just being being unique, stepping into your um being authentic, stepping into your true self. Because you know what, like you said, between that dash, you're gonna have some challenges. You're gonna have some good days. You're gonna have some bad days. But the most thing about it is to embrace it and to just continue to live life to the fullest. Because, like you say, we don't know when our end day is. We don't know today versus tomorrow, the next second. You really just don't know. You have no idea, But just being grateful and thankful for the time that you have, and you know, enjoying your loved ones and enjoying your life. So I get it.
Absolutely.
I get it. I definitely get it. Well, before we get started, I want to shout out a special person in my family. My auntie Aunt B is on the line. She says, "Good evening, beautiful people." Auntie is listening. I know for a fact she's listening from California. So, hey, Aunt B. So definitely, I had to shout out my Aunt B, y'all. But let's go ahead and get started. Let's get started. So, as we were talking about, being our true selves, being authentic, and dealing with the idea that society has for us. And you know what, even sometimes the idea that our family members have for us. So, can you tell me, has there been a time where, let's say, your mom or your dad or your cousins or somebody may have wanted you to fit in a particular mold, and you kind of was a rebel going against the grain, like, no, that's not who I am, that's not who I want to be, or it took you a time to realize that that's not what I want to do? Any one of you?
Well, you know what? For me, I have always been the one to go against the grain, and I consider myself a trailblazer. And oftentimes, if I was to go along with what people thought I should do with my life or what I
Mm-hmm.
should be in life, I wouldn't be true to who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, I wouldn't even be living my life for me, but I would be living my life for someone else. And once you begin to identify with yourself, with who you are, then you have a sense of being. And I was listening to you when you were saying that, you was going down a list of, checking the boxes. Well, in the midst of you checking the boxes, can you ultimately say that you are happy with who you are? Because you, in the midst of checking those boxes, somewhere you have lost your self identity with who you are, and you have disconnected from life. So yes, it's been many of times where I had to go against the grain because it just wasn't me. I didn't fit
Mm-hmm.
inside of the box, and I'm not going to allow anybody to cause me to shrink down inside of a box just because they feel like I should this or I should that. No, I don't
Mm-hmm.
live my life for anybody else. I live my life for Roy.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. What about you, Freddie? Have you ever had any experience where, like, maybe your parents or somebody wanted you to be have a particular career, or just do something particular where you was like, "Nah, mom, I love you, but I don't want to do that one."
No, I'm a little bit different than Mr. Roy. One thing that's unique about me that I lost one of my parents. I came from a two-parent household, one-parent household, and then so at the age of 14, basically I was kind of raising myself, living with my older sister. So I really didn't have a lot of boxes. The only boxes they ever developed were boxes I put for myself, which there were real boxes now because there's perceptions that we all live and how we want to be perceived by folks. So I was fortunate to be able to live those boxes, but as Mr. Roy said, eventually you have to start trying to figure out who you are. Now, but figuring who you are sometimes allowed me to live. You can almost, as being a black man, I almost live a dual life at times because I work in corporate America, and the corporate America ain't really ready for the full Freddie at times. Okay, they just not. They not. I'm loud. I'm raspy. I'm not gonna talk how you want me to talk. So, but I had to learn to tone that down to move up in corporate America. But that's why I became my own business owner because at the end of the day, I get to talk. I talk. All my customers know I'm stupid because they know I'm crazy. I come like, don't come in with that nonsense, and we laugh. We're gonna talk loud. So I have lived in that box, but it's a box mainly I put on myself with what I want to perceive, what I want to get accomplished, and at the end of the day, like I said, I'm operating in a world that's a system that wasn't designed for me to be successful. So when you operate in a world, I would love to be able to be my true self from day one. I wasn't. There was a lot of responsibilities, but I think eventually what I learned about life is the old folks. You love old folks because the older they get, the more they don't care about what they say to you. Okay, they say, "Boy, your head been big all my life." They tell you because old folks really just don't care anymore because they like, hey, they're trying to find their true happiness and be happy with themselves. And I understand that point now. But in my 30s and my 20s, I definitely wasn't trying to be the trailblazer. That just wasn't me. But I am stubborn now. I learned to trust my own instincts. And so if you told me to follow you and it wasn't with my instincts, I'd be like, nah, you could do your thing. I'm going to do my thing. Yeah. But, I wasn't a dude at a young age, mismatched socks, mismatched shoes. It just wasn't me. I mean, I really I also got a military background. So when you have a military background, you kind of fit in sometimes because other than that, you won't be in the military.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So you were talking about the box that you had put on yourself. So can you tell me more about that box that you put yourself in?
Well, that box, the further you move up a corporate ladder and the more titles they give you, the more you start saying, well, I can't do that anymore. I can't do these things because other people, I'm in leadership, they're looking at me. And that's not how they're going to define how they want their leader to look. So that became an issue I had to deal with myself. I mean, I had a wild college life. I was kind of out of control, which I enjoyed. But as I moved up and started getting different roles in corporate America, I'm like, well, you can't do that anymore, Freddie. But as Mr. Roy said, you start giving away a piece of yourself. And then one day you wake up and you realize that what's truly making you happy, you're not there anymore. You're really living for other folks. And so I made a commitment to get back to who I am. And if that's not good enough for other folks, that's not my problem. The best thing is I'm going to be worried about being the best father, being the best brother, being the best friend. And when I was a spouse, be the best spouse. That's what you got to worry about. But then more importantly, I got to be the best friend and best person to myself, Freddie. Because that's what I got to look in the mirror with every day. The other responsibilities, they're great. But can you look in the mirror and say, hey, I'm happy? And a good friend told me that one day. I ain't going to talk all day, but a good friend told me one day, he said, hey, I was going to go cuss everybody out of my family. Oh, they was going to get it. They get the cussing, okay? I was going to cuss them out of family reunion because there's some things I didn't like what they did. Yeah. My mom died. And my friend looked at me and said, are you happy? And I said, yeah. He said, no, are you truly happy? I said, yeah. He said, if you're truly happy, you can't be mad about anything you went through before.
Whoa.
So you can't go cuss everybody out and you're really happy, because you can't be who you are if you don't go through the process of being who you are. So, hey, family, y'all was spared. And I'm glad y'all was spared, because it wouldn't have been right for me to do what I was going to do anyway.
Praise him.
Right. And you know what, to feed off of what you said, being in corporate America, and even being around in crowds that you normally wouldn't find yourself in, oftentimes causes us to turn on a switch. And there's a term for that, and I can't remember what that exact term is, when you pretend to be somebody who you are not. You tend to put on a facade. You tend to change the way you talk. You tend to change the way you carry yourself, just so you are able to fit in and people accept you. If you have to do that, that's not where you belong.
Yeah.
You know, it's like trying to fit a wrong ball inside of a square. You just don't fit. And when you know who you are and what you stand for, you become true to who you are, and people can accept you for who you are, if they want to or not. But guess what? At the end of the day, I'm going to be who I was created to be, Roy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I kind of agree with that. But also, I give him one person I really look at is Mike Tyson. I don't know how much I follow him, but of course he's known as one of the baddest boxers ever. He was this tough guy, but if you watch him now, he's a funny guy. He does a monologue. He's like, I never really wanted to be that tough guy. You know, of course, boxing made my living, but you know, he's really a funny person. If you ever listen to him tell stories, he got a cartoon, and so I kind of look at him, because even though you make one point, you're evolving. What you may start off at may not be where you are now, because we also in a constant, evolving. As you taking more information, hopefully you're evolving. You know, I don't want to be the same person I am now that I was a long time ago. So.
Oh, did you see that, Roy? Was that what term you were looking for? Code switching.
Yes, that's exactly what I was looking for. Code switching. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. You know, it's funny saying my name to my other people. But but going back to, so this is my question. And as far as with men, because you use Mike Tyson of saying like, okay, of course he used boxing or that career to get him out of, I'm pretty sure, the environment in which he grew up in. He used it as a gateway, but then they gave him a label that he was a tough guy, a bad guy, because some people would still look at Mike Tyson as he's a bad guy, So as with you two, have there ever been a label that was put on you that wasn't you? Oh, Freddie.
Well, I'll go ahead. So Mr. Roy got one time. Of course, there's always been labels on you that may not be, but at the end of the day, perception is reality. So somebody may put that label on me, how they perceive me at that time. If I don't smile and I'm a bald head black guy, you know how many times I get told I'm mean? And I'm like, no, I'm just not smiling at y'all today. But so that label, you're gonna constantly have labels. My goal in life is to understand that people are gonna have their perception and that's their reality, but that's not my reality. And at the end of the day, when you get to know me and talk to me, then you're able to really have a more informed. But other than that, Mr. Johnson, he knows when we walk down the street, from where he at, people may cross the street sometimes, clutch their purse. That's a label really internally that you can't control. So if you start worrying about labels, your life is not going to be happy.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite mentors, Les Brown, once said, somebody's opinion of you does not someone's opinion of you does not have to dictate your future.
Mm-hmm.
And so in other words, he grew up, they called him educable, mentally retarded.
Yeah.
And so, but as you can see today, he is the top motivational speaker there is. And if you allow yourself to live under the shadows of somebody else and the labels that you have been put on you, then that says a lot about your self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
It really says a lot about your self-esteem. uh, and oftentimes we as men, we often get labeled, especially us as black men, we
Yes.
should be dead in jail or on drugs. And when somebody hear that, oh, this is a well-educated black man, and me, I graduated from a predominantly white university.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I was able to do and go against the grain. Just because the color of my skin is not the same as yours does not mean I'm not educated. Guess
Mm-hmm.
what? When I graduated, that color piece of paper was the same color piece of paper that you received.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, it's identifying with who you are. And because we as men are labeled as strong, it causes us to find ourselves in a place of where we are, when we are weak, we can't express ourselves. Or
Mm-hmm.
when we need help, express ourselves, because society has placed us in this box that, oh, you are a man, you should be strong, you are a
Mm-hmm.
man, oh, you don't have problems, you don't have issues, you don't have emotions, you can't cry.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to begin to break that stigma
Yeah.
that we as men are human.
Mm-hmm.
We have emotions, we have feelings, we go through the same things that women does, but ours is just brushed underneath the rug.
Mm-hmm. You know what? This is what I've noticed, like, because of course, we've been doing this segment for the month of September. And when I'm talking to my guests, we always highlight or, about men not having that space to express themselves, to be emotional. Because if they are emotional, if they do express themselves, then they're looked at as being weak or vulnerable, or, you can't handle it, you know. But
Right.
doesn't that also play in a first of all, it impacts and it's a major effect to women, to black women especially, because not only do you have to be strong black men, we also are labeled strong black women. And we get tired. Like, we get tired of being strong all the time. And so what I'm realizing though in this month is that the same way we get tired, you guys get tired. And that is something I can definitely say that I have gained more insight and awareness on, and not to just, I guess what I'm looking for, like, shun you guys, or kind of like just whatever, like, get over it, like, but pay more attention to our black men, because they are dealing with stressors just as well as we as women are dealing with stressors in our day-to-day lives. Because you guys, like you was talking about corporate America and the box that they put you in, or the labels that they give you, that's a stressor that you have to deal with when you go to work. And the same thing with women, well, black women especially, where I want to highlight that we deal with those same stresses too, being in corporate America. It's all because we're trying to be acknowledged, just even be acknowledged for our efforts. So we're going against a lot of things as Black women in corporate America also. But I thought that was very interesting over this month, is that truthfully the same things that we are getting hit with, the same challenges that we're getting faced with, are really some of the same similar challenges that Black men are getting faced with also. And so one thing I can say, I'm thankful for this conversation of this month to be able to see that. Like, hey. So back to the expressing the feelings. Roy, do you believe that you had the space to even express yourself?
Mm, honestly, no. At times I felt alone.
Okay.
Um, at times I feel like nobody would understand me.
Hmm.
Um, and what I was feeling, it really wouldn't matter to anybody. And I internalized a lot of that. And it got to the point to where sometimes, I would find myself alone, sitting, and a certain song would come on, certain gospel song would come on, and it would be one of those songs that just it resonates with me. It's like, Lord, are you talking to me? Because you see and hear what I'm going through.
Hmm.
And I mean, it pierces I mean, that music, it pierces me in a place to where it causes me to be vulnerable. Hey, it may not have been in front of somebody else, but it caused me to be vulnerable with myself, and just
Hmm.
begin to just break down, because at times things began to weigh so heavy on me, like
Hmm.
a ton of bricks, and I had no way to escape it. And I'm like, okay, when is this going to be over with? Can I talk to somebody? And the truth of the matter is, it was hard for me to, because I didn't know who I can trust. I didn't know how it was going to be perceived. I
Hmm.
didn't know what type of feedback I was going to get. So yes, yeah, it was a moment in my life where I was in that space.
Yeah. Freddie, for you, same question. Did you have the space to express yourself? Because I know you said that you lost your mother at a young age.
Yes,
You lost your mother at a young age. So how did you deal with that grieving process? Because you was at the age of what, 14?
correct. Yes.
How did you deal with that? And then two, if you were giving the space to express yourself, did you?
Well, to go back over it, probably no, I didn't. I wasn't given the space to express myself, but I can't blame the space because maybe I didn't have the mental capacity at that point to express myself at that time either. I'm thinking about I'm a teenage kid. I'm dealing with my own issues. Um, so it's really a hard process. And as we already mentioned, as a male, you told to suck it up. You know,
Hmm.
um,
Mm.
people love you, but they got their own things they're going through. So you really internalize a whole bunch of stuff.
Hmm.
So and so I internalize a whole man, and that really caused more issues for me anything because I'm internalizing. When you're internalizing, you making things up that really may not even be true, but you're internalizing because you ain't got an outlet. So that was one thing about it. Now, losing a parent at a young age and not having a proper guidance to understand that your emotions you're dealing with. Like I lost my mom at 14, but I didn't know what the five grieving steps to
Hmm.
grieving was till I was 22 in college. And then when
Hmm.
I'm sitting there in college, I'm in the class, I'm like, oh, that's what I've been dealing with. Oh, okay, so I'm not. There's really not an issue. It's natural. It's
Hmm.
natural for me to be angry. It's natural for me to have denial. It's natural for me to bargaining. There's
Hmm.
all those things. Then I was like, oh, okay, so now I'm gonna do that. And one thing that really helped me out was um, I joined a fraternity, which is not I'm not saying that, but I joined a good fraternity. But I started having good space with men.
Hmm.
That excuse me, I was allowed to talk. We were allowed to express ourselves, and there were times you had to be vulnerable, because there are times when things, just like everybody got some issues, but when you're allowed to be vulnerable at that moment, and just somebody to listen to you, and you ain't got to be at a bar, but somebody who really care about you, then you're able to start, um, you start able to start know how to express yourself, release things. So that was part of my start of that. Right now to this day, I go on a guys trip 3 times a year. I mean, it's the young lady I date right now. She understands that's a deal breaker. I need that space in a safe zone with some males, so I can talk about male issues. That's it. I can talk about how dumb we are, how stupid we are, and I'm with friends who would call me and say, you know, that's stupid what you just did, but we still love you. And so that was important to my self healing because what I do a lot of reflection of is my relationships. My relationships with the women, it wasn't the women. The common denominator was me. So when I start evaluating and reflecting, then I got to look at myself and say, well, you know, maybe it's you.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not. Maybe I wanted to deflect and put it on them. Okay, it was easy. But when you start peeling the layers and say, well, maybe some of that what's going on is you. You know, maybe you show happiness real good, but you show anger. But maybe you need to show middle. There's also this middle ground.
Yeah.
And so that was part of the process. And at the end of the day, I'm still not there. I've been depressed real bad. I tell everybody, I'm just not able to share it. Didn't share it for the longest because as we're at men, you don't want to come across as weak. I'm gonna pick on women. What the first thing women get together? Oh, I can't stand a weak man. I'm like, oh, so just because I show vulnerability doesn't mean I'm weak. That means I was just vulnerable at that moment.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I'm weak. So there are a lot of things that that I work on and I continue to work on to be a better person to do it. And also having 3 daughters. 3 daughters taught me that just because I want to say it and it might be true, you might want to back up and find better words to talk about. Because them girls are listening to everything I say, and how I say it can be very detrimental to their mental health and their self-esteem. So I had to learn to back up and say, watch your mouth. And that was guys. If I had some boys, they'd be terrible because they've been raised in the same toxic masculinity that I was raised in, and I'd be telling them to suck it up, pick yourself up. Which is cool to pick yourself up, but also it's cool to let somebody cry.
Yes.
It's okay to cry.
Yes, and that's true, and I'm glad you did say that because, and that's something else that I've been highlighting and stressing at the same time is it's okay to feel because you do have feelings. Everyone has feelings. Everyone has emotions, and it's okay to not be okay. Like what I remember earlier, we were talking about, just leaning into it. Sometimes you need to have that space where you can lean into it and be and express yourself. I don't want to say weak. I don't want to say vulnerable. I just want to say to be able to express yourself. And however you express yourself, this is the thing. Everyone's expression of their feelings is going to look different. But as long as you do it in a manner where it's not hurtful or harmful to yourself or someone else, I believe you should be able to express yourself. I mean, and that's just me.
I want to jump in there real quick.
Okay.
No big guy. Just what you said. I got a couple good friends, and we got a joke. If I call him up and he say I'm good, and I know he's going through something, he say I'm good 3 times. That really means he really ain't good.
Wow.
He like, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. And really, you really probably not good because you're really trying to self-convince yourself. You're talking to yourself out loud that you're good. So we laugh about it because if he's telling me that, if he called me up and I keep saying I'm okay, I'm probably not okay. I'm probably just haven't processed how to verbalize how I want to talk to him yet.
You know what?
And Freddie, I agree. You know what? I absolutely agree with you on that because I do it at times. And I still do it at till this day because you don't want people to you really don't want people to really know what you're going through. 2, it's a defense mechanism for us to try to cover it up so we don't have to address that issue. and it's our way of avoiding and try to circumvent what's really going on at that particular time. So yes, I absolutely agree with you. And even at times as guys, we still can't go to our homeboys and our guys because they're not empathetic with what we're going through. They don't understand. They'll say, "Oh, man, stop acting like a punk," or or whatever, or stop crying, and just push through it. Well, it's not something that can be pushed through. It's something that I really need to talk to somebody about who understands me. But you obviously are not the correct avenue for me to come talk to. You say you're my best friend. You're a good friend. Hey, anytime you need me, come talk to me. But when it's time for the rubber to hit the pavement, to hit the road, are you really there? Are you going to be empathetic and lend me a ear? Because oftentimes we don't look for the solution. We just need somebody to talk to.
That is true. That is true. That is absolutely true. But you know what, Roy, to go on to what you're saying, and I believe, Fred, I believe you was the one that said this, but you know what? Sometimes our friends don't have the capacity to give us what we need, or even the capacity to give us a support that we need. Because we got to think about it. We're talking to them and they're giving us feedback based on their experiences or based on the capacity that they do have. And so you might need something that's beyond their capacity, beyond their reach, because they can't tap into it because they hadn't been through that healing process just yet. And so we're looking for them to be understanding, or just even like you said, just look, you ain't got to say nothing. Just open your ear up. But sometimes you can't have active listening when you don't even have the capacity to listen, because you've never been necessarily had the space to listen, or kind of even been taught to just sometimes close your mouth and just listen. But but you know what, with that, that's when we reach out. And I know that, and I want to talk about this too, though, but the stigma that's on Black males in the community of going to therapy, because that's when you reach out to the professional and you go and you sit down and you talk to someone who is neutral, who has that capacity to kind of give you that outlook, to give you a different insight, and then someone else who can have that active listening skill, and reflect back to you or give you feedback of what you just said, help you process, gather the information, as you're going through your healing process. But so my question is, why is it that men don't want to go to therapy? Like, it's just therapy.
Well, I think it comes from a long history of mistrust with the medical industry. And then also the inability for certain therapists to even relate to our uniqueness and what we are actually going through. So it's like, how can you help me if you've never really dealt with what I'm going through, or never even walked a day in our shoes as Black men or as a Black person? So I believe it's really a historical trend that we really need more Black therapists, Black psychologists, psychiatrists within the medical industry, to make it a lot more comfortable and a lot more relatable to be able to talk about these issues that we're going through. So again, it's a trend, and I think the more the industry of psychologists, begin to grow with Black doctors, I think, we can begin to grow out of that. But it's a work in process.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Freddie, like you had something to say. You was.
Well, I've always got something to say, but I'm
I'm
good.
I'm, I'm noticing the movement.
No, I'm always just moving. But here's the thing about it. My first wife, she's a doctor of marriage and therapy. And when we first started dating, she's like, "You need therapy," and I thought, "I don't need no damn therapy." And I said it like that because I was successful and I had made it to this point. So who are you to come tell me I need therapy? But that was me being too macho. Now, unfortunately, when I lost her, when I divorced her and when I lost her, I was in therapy. Okay. And one of the things therapy was dealing with the anger management. And that anger management was good. Now I'm quick to say I go to therapy in a heartbeat. I'm like, man, I'll go to therapy. Now I'm not taking no shots at anyone. I lean away from pastoral counseling. I go to professional counseling. Not saying a pastor can't be a professional, but I needed someone that was trained in that field totally to walk me through all my processes. Okay, I know I went to one, and there's no shot at it, but I went to one of them, and I was talking about my mother's death and one of the issues. He said, just pray about it. Well, that wasn't enough for me. I needed more than that. Okay, and so when I went and got professional therapy, and I still go to therapy right now. I mean, the thing is, I normally figure out my own problems. It's not, but at the end of the day, I need a safe space to be able to express my problems. And they actually do give me some suggestions, and that's good. But the stigma of why we don't go to therapy is because we didn't see our mama go to therapy, we didn't see our uncles go to therapy, we didn't see our grandparents go to therapy. We were told to suck it up. And so now we got all these people that run around, men and women. We're successful on the outside, but there's some internal things that we could be working out. And we never seen, as Mr. Johnson said, the medical field ain't always been the best to us, and definitely not in the psychiatry area. Okay, so we're definitely a little scared of the psychiatry area, and we always been afraid to put something out there because sometimes in therapy they always want to also give you some medication too.
Yeah, that's true.
And so that's another thing we want to shy against. So there's a lot of factors that go into the mistrust, the way some of us was raised. I can only say the way I was raised, and then as we get older, we get some success, and then you think we think it worked good for me. And the bad thing is we start putting that on our kids. Well, it worked for me. You got to must work for them, and unfortunately, not understanding that we might be the outlier that made it. I make it real quick. I remember me and my brother. He was 19 when my mother died, my older brother, and we was having a conversation. And so I was 38, and me and was having a conversation, and he said a couple things, and I'm like, "Wow, you still are in a grieving process of mom dying." I knew it. And you got to think. So that's 24 years later. He has not fully processed all the grieving thing of it. And I had to tell him, say, go look at the 5 steps of grief and understand what you're going to do. But if we had true therapists and we were not true therapists, if we would have been in therapy at the time, he would have been stuck in that mode for 20 some years. We had that conversation. He's a lot better, but I was just so shocked to find that, like I said, 20 some years later, he was still he was in one of the grieving processes.
He was still, yeah.
And if once he became aware of it, then he was able to come out of it. And it wasn't, and when you're not aware of things, sometimes it can become detrimental in your life.
That's true. That's true. That's true. I always say, I take the term when they always say, when you know better, you do better. But I like to add on that in order for you to do better and to know better, you have to be taught better. So in any form or way that you're being taught, whether it's you finding the research to get it or someone else telling you, But in order for you to know better, to do better, you have to get the information. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's where I always, challenge people to say, so who's going to give them the information? Because you always say, oh, you should know better. Well, how? Did you tell them for them to know better? For them to do better? Because sometimes we get on to, and I'm just thinking about children, we get on to children, or we get on to our spouses and saying, oh, you should know better. But they might not have been taught the information. And then again, the social environments are totally different. You got to think about it. I came from my social environment where we did things one way. You came from your social environment where things were done another way. So I kind of, me and that term, that phrase, I'm like, I don't like that. Don't say that. Unless you got the information to go behind it, or were you going to teach something? Don't say when you know better, do better. I don't even like common sense anymore, because I'm like, no, because all sense ain't common. Because again, I grew up one way. My social environment was this. Your social environment was that. And once we start paying attention to that, being aware of that. I'm not gonna say pay attention. Once we start being aware of that, certain things we'll just stop saying, because we're like, well, you know what, everybody ain't got it. So, but I'm just sorry. That was my little for the day. But this is what I do want to tap on or talk about as far as the healing process, the self-care. So what does self-care look like for you, gentlemen? Because now that is something that we definitely haven't talked about, is men having self-care. And so how does self-care look for you? And when did you learn that you needed self-care, which I like to call it self-love? When did you realize you needed that self-love?
Well, I'll jump in this time. I've been a reader. I'm a reader. I love reading books. It's always been a passion of mine. And the thing about the self-care part about it, I had to learn, like, I get depressed. I know when I get depressed. This pandemic was hard, okay? We still in the pandemic, but not being able to go anywhere and being trapped to a certain space to the house, it was very depressing. But the thing is, I realize why I get depressed. I can call my friends up right now. And I'm getting depressed. And I know that the things that get me out of the depression, first of all, I need to go out and exercise. I have to, because it starts my endorphins. Okay. And then typically if I'm reading something, I can get out of depression too. Okay. But I know when I'm getting depressed, I know I'm getting depressed easily. So self-care is, and sometimes with my depression, I have to be around people. I can't just you can't leave me at home by myself, trapped in a closet like R. Kelly had. I need to be out and see folks and all kind of stuff. So that's part of my self-care is definitely, I don't need a massage. I don't need anything. I need to see people.
You need that social interaction.
Yeah. And the thing is, the bad thing is, as you get older, you learn that you self-medicate, and that's through alcohol, whatever your vices may be, coffee, and you have to realize that you don't want to get caught up in self-medication, because unfortunately, you're not skilled in medicating yourself. You're just not. You drink too much. You do whatever you want to do too much, which is normally not going to be good for you.
That is true.
Those are some things I had to learn to operate. But the main thing is I exercise. I still exercise now. If I go 3 days without exercising, I'm probably going to feel sluggish now. I'm probably not going to feel pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Roy, for you, what does your self-care look like? And when did you discover that, hey, let me start getting this self-care thing rolling?
Well, one thing is, it's easy for you to tell somebody else that you need to take care of yourself. You need to take care. You need to do this. And sometimes those individuals feed back the information that I had given them. Like, okay, so when our advice to ourselves sometimes is probably one of the hardest pills for us to swallow. It's easy for us to dish out, but it's a lot more difficult for us to take back in our own advice. And so one of the things that I realized when I feel like I'm heading in a direction of, like you said, depression or unhappiness, is I get grouchy, I get irritable,
Mm-hmm.
I get it's just the smallest things, they irritate me.
Yes.
Uh, being around certain people, it's like, just leave me alone. And they could, they wouldn't have even done anything wrong, but because of the way that I'm feeling and what I'm dealing with, it's causing me to react in a way uh, that wants to put me in a box or a closet,
Mm-hmm.
just of, just leave me alone. And so one of the things that I do is I get by myself. Hey, if I can be by myself, no noise, nobody else around, peace and quiet, that's part of myself, part of my self-care. uh
Mm-hmm.
Taking, trips, taking vacations. A lot of times, even with this pandemic, it was hard for us to even take a trip to go somewhere. But once, things began to open up, I'm like, okay, going here, going there, going there. But that was a way for me to digress, recollect myself,
Mm-hmm.
and start over fresh. Even going walk in the middle of the day, it's something about going for a walk in the middle of the day, to where your mind is cluttered. And so once you go for that walk or you exercise, it becomes decluttered, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
able to get out into an environment where it's just open, it's fresh. I can
Mm-hmm.
breathe in air. I'm not around a bunch of ruckus, because I'm an individual. I don't like a lot of drama. I don't like a lot of confusion. And if something just doesn't make sense to me, and you still want to go in this direction of where it doesn't make sense,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna shut me. It's gonna shut me down. But
Mm-hmm.
I realize self care is important, because I suffer with blood pressure problems, and it got to a point in my life to where it was at a rate to where it was uncontrollable. I go to the doctor. Doc, the common black folks pill is the water pill, the hydrochlorothiazide pill. So they give that to me, but I was on 4 or 5 different medications for it. And so
Really?
I realized that point, it was gonna either be me to take care of myself, or I was gonna allow that condition, stress, and everything around me to take me out of here. So
Mm-hmm.
that was the point where I began to realize self care was important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you know what, you guys, I want to say thank you for sharing that, especially with your self-care, and then also just tapping into your own challenges with mental health. I've heard you both mention about being depressed, and I want to say, thank you for sharing that, because I want people, I want our community, the community, conversation community, to be able to see that it's not just them, and that they are not alone, because someone could be watching this feeling like they were alone. Like, why do I feel like this? Why am I snapping on people? Why am I so irritable? Why am I easily annoyed? Why this anger that I'm having? And with you guys talking and and sharing your journeys, it allows someone in the conversation community to be able to see and say, I'm not by myself and I'm not alone, but I do need to get some support for what I'm dealing with. And so, and normally, and this is the I guess the funny thing for me is I normally begin the conversation with the signs of depression, anxiety, um, post traumatic stress disorder, um, just things like that. I begin with it, and it's just so, I guess, ironic to me that you guys actually mention most of the symptoms that happen that I normally name. So I thought, so it's funny to me.
And one of the another thing that I want to make mention is don't let the glitz and glamour fool you, because we're good at masking it. We're good at covering it up. We're good at putting on our best Sunday suit, or just something to make us feel good. But in reality, we're hurting. We're screaming for help, but we just don't know how to deal with it. And so we walk around with this facade as if everything is okay when everything is not okay. We're smiling because when people are so used to seeing you a certain way, every day, if you didn't see me smiling or laughing or having a good time, you would think something wrong with me. When in all actuality, it really is something wrong, something wrong. But I really don't know how to express it. And so I'm just saying to don't allow yourself to get caught up, and not being willing and able to check on your friends or your loved ones or your husband, your kids, because sometimes as adults those problems still exist because they hadn't got down to the root of the problem, which is their childhood.
It's true.
And, and so we just said, I wish it was more platforms for us to be able to express ourselves. I wish it was more events for us to be had for men, because oftentimes we hear women, oh, we're having a women workshop, we're having the women come. Well, what about the men? Men, the same thing women are dealing with, men are dealing with too, but we just don't have a platform. So, I mean, if there are any men out there that are looking and willing to put together something for men to be able to express themselves, in an environment where they feel safe, they feel welcome, they feel loved, they feel like, oh, they can these are men that I can easily relate to. Please, get with me, because this is not the end of. This is on the only the beginning. This is a platform. This is the foundation that we are laying, saying that, hey, we see a problem. Now we need to come up with some solutions to address those issues.
Hmm. You're right. You're right. And I'm glad that you said that and that you mentioned that, because you're right. I don't, from what I've seen, I don't see men having that space. Again, we go back to that space to
Mhm.
express themselves. And I remember Freddie said it earlier that he didn't have it, but until he got into his frat, he got into a space where he was able to be, he could express himself. He could,
Mhm.
show his feelings. He could, have shoulders to lean on,
Mhm.
and not be labeled as weak, you know, but
Mhm.
he would express himself. And the code word that y'all have, Fred, I like that. I mean, I'm a lady, so I guess I'm gonna use with my ladies. I can't, but any of the men, I don't know if you heard Freddie earlier, but him and his friend have code words, and he says that if he says that he's good 3 times, then he knows, okay,
Mhm.
no, he not good. And Freddie said if he say he fine 3 times, then he probably not really fine. I'm sorry, Freddie. I kind of just summed that up a little bit. I know that was your story.
That's fine.
But I like that because I feel like more men need that. And I think that's what it is,
Mhm.
that a lot of men don't have that space to really just go somewhere, say let their hair down. But you gentlemen, it's okay. Y'all don't have no hair. But but be able to go somewhere and just take that, how about this? Take their suit jacket off and
Mhm.
relax, unbutton a top button and go, look, today has not been a good day, or I'm not in a good place. To just say
Mhm.
I'm not in a good place. and and that could be enough right there. But I think it's getting to the place where men will say, I'm not in a good place or I'm not in a good space. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that we definitely need to get to also is our men, our black men. And I stress that to the utmost, our black men to be able to say, I'm not in a good place.
One thing I'd like to add on there, I tell everybody that words become thoughts and thoughts become action. Okay,
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
so I believe in protecting your mind. I'm very protective of all this stuff. I mean, I listen to a lot of different stuff, but I'm not just listening to one thing. I read a lot of different books. I don't read just romances. You know, a person who just read romance books, they want to be in love all day. And
yeah.
so I believe in having diversity, but I really believe in protecting your thoughts because that's the one thing that you want to be very careful about. I'm protective about what I watch on TV. You
Hmm.
know, if I watch ID channel all day, I'm thinking somebody probably trying to kill me. Okay, because that's what happens on the ID channel. Somebody's always dying. So
Hmm.
I just tell everybody be careful about like I said, your words become your thoughts, and your thoughts become your actions.
Hmm.
And so you just have. I'm real protective of that, and I just want to tell everybody to keep that in mind of what you're reading, what you're listening to, what you're watching, because they do have influence in your mind. They're not spending all this money for advertising for no reason. They know exactly what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That is so true. Thank you for
It's
saying
about
that.
personal development, and putting something positive in here because the way you start your day is the way your whole day is going to go. So start your day off with something positive, and to counteract those negative thoughts. Because
Hmm.
again, the like Miss Noble said, the mind is a battlefield, and we're at war with ourselves every day.
Hmm.
So, in order to counteract that, start with some motivational. Start with some affirmations.
Yeah.
Start with, hey, even if it's no more than looking yourself in the mirror on a daily basis and saying something positive to yourself. You just never know how one single statement or one person who you come across or one video that you've listened to can change the whole trajectory of your day.
That is so true.
I'm
That's
glad you
true.
said that, Mr. Roy. Make you laugh. Every day I start my day with a win. You know what that is? One thing I can control. I make my bed.
Right.
Every day I won. That's one win. That's one win for the day. Okay.
Y'all,
So, if I-
y'all.
but that's a win I can control. I mean, I make my bed every day. I look back and say, man, well, I completed something. I got
But
up.
you're
So
right
hey,
though. You
Yeah.
know what? And it we laugh because we look at it as something being so funny. But this is the kicker though. Even by you making your bed in your mind mentally, it goes, oh, okay, well then I can conquer something else today. Or I'm gonna have a good day. Why? Because now my space of my room is clean. So now something is in order. And so that actually does helps the rest of your day because you did make your
Mm-hmm.
bed up. And so it gives you this sense of accomplishment. It gives you this sense of a fulfillment, of a happiness, of a peace, because, like you said, it was something you could control. I made my bed up. I look back. I feel refreshed. I feel good. I can get my day started all because my room is clean and I made my bed up. Very
Mm-hmm.
small and minute, but it really holds a heavy impact because that's something else we teach our clients. We're like, make your bed up. You'll be surprised
Mm-hmm.
of the feeling that you receive just by making your bed up and turning around and looking like, oh, my bed made up. I look, okay, I can do something else today.
Mm-hmm. And the thing, and I'm glad you made mention of that to feed off of that. Oftentimes, it's the small wins that makes the biggest difference. And we oftentimes we overlook those small wins, but it's
Yeah.
those small wins that builds on top of each other that gets you to that big win. So
Mhm.
celebrate the micro wins, and those micro wins is going to help you to get to that macro win.
That is so true. That is so true. Oh my goodness, you guys, all this encouragement that y'all are giving. Thank you, gentlemen. But you know what? You are absolutely right. We do need to celebrate our wins. We need to show ourselves more love. We need to have show gratitude, even
Hmm.
in the small things, show ourselves gratitude and celebrate ourselves, tell ourselves what we're proud of about ourselves. Now, something that I know we didn't get into, but something else I want to highlight is just showing ourselves forgiveness, because there are
Mm.
certain things that we have been through that we have to forgive ourselves for of our actions. Like, yeah, it
Hmm.
happened, but you got to forgive yourself for that action because at that moment in time, you didn't have the capacity to do what you needed to or to get over whatever the situation was. But now that you have it, you got to forgive yourself and be proud of
Hmm.
yourself and celebrate yourself for the things that you have done, and be proud of you. And I think that's the one of the biggest things that we have to do is be proud of ourselves, because that also plays a huge factor in our mental health, is being proud of
Hmm.
ourselves. Our self-esteem, our self-worth, our self-value. What worth or what value do you place on yourself? How do you show up for you? Are you making yourself a priority? What are the things that you are doing for you? And then also, I know that we're going to worry and we have worries, but the Bible tells us, the word tells us, he says, cast your cares upon me, for I care for you. So sometimes, you know what, if you can't hold it for yourself and the support that we need, that we can't find in people, we can give it to him if that's going to help us in that moment. Because sometimes all we need is just that moment. But then sometimes, as Freddie said, sometimes we need a little bit more. And that's where we seek out for that external, that outside support, what we get from the professional, from our therapist, from our clinician, from anyone who can give us that help that we need.
Hmm.
But we have to be able to get our supports, and everyone's supports are going to look different. But sometimes we need just that extra professional support to also go with it. But as I said, we have to give ourselves grace, show ourselves compassion, give ourselves forgiveness. Man, love yourself. I'm just saying.
Hmm. And know that our self-worth and our value is non-negotiable.
Oh yes, you're right. You're right. Ain't Don't negotiate about your worth.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
Don't try to diminish your self-value just to fit in
Mm-hmm.
the box of somebody else. No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So again, I just want to say thank you guys so much. Thank you, gentlemen. You have really, really, really fed us so much. Like they said at church. Woo! I can eat off this for days. Like y'all have really, 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 given us a lot of insight. You've given us a lot of words of wisdom. Definitely thank you for sharing your experiences again, because sometimes it's not easy, as I call it, the hot seat. It's not easy when you get into the hot seat and it's time to share your journey or your experience. But I thank you guys for your courage to share your journey, to share your experience with the conversation community. Conversation community. Hello, hello, hello. You know what? I just want to say thank you for everyone who has joined the conversation this evening. And then for the ones of you who join every Wednesday, I just want to tell y'all thank you. Thank you for always coming back, Because if it was not for you, hey, this show would not be what it is. And because of you, you've made this show what it is. And I just want to say thank you. But again, if you are not a member of the conversation community, and I know some of y'all probably know this by heart, but you can become a member by 3 ways: like it, share it, and make a comment. Let people know that the conversation is on, that the conversation happens every Wednesday. Every Wednesday, the conversation is here. So we will be talking about next Wednesday. We're going to continue our conversation about males and mental health. We'll be ending our month out, but this was definitely awesome conversation. As my panelists, as my guests have mentioned, as they said, this is a topic that's normally not talked about. But I'm glad that I had the obedience to talk about it. And so I'm grateful. I'm thankful. I got to meet some awesome people along the way as this has happened, as this has transpired. But again, I just want to say thank you so much to you. Is there anything that y'all would like to give the conversation community before we get ready to go? Any encouraging words?
Yes, I'd like to, like I tell myself, when I have a hard situation or something, I always tell my look in the mirror and say, I tell myself, you are enough. And so I like to tell everybody out there that you are enough. No matter what situation you are enough. And don't ever doubt that. You're enough for whatever you need to get accomplished.
Awesome.
And what I want to say is, first of all, Andrea, I want to tell you thank you for being obedient and giving us a platform so our voices can be heard. We just, you started something, and this is only the beginning. However, the beginning is what we want to create a movement. It's easy to start something, but can we keep it going?
Yes.
And so, again, thank you. And then to the community, like he said, you are enough, and just be authentic to who you are. Be true to yourself, and realize asking for help does not make you weak, but you asking for help because you want to remain strong.
Awesome. I like that. You know what? I like them them encouraging words, guys. Thank y'all so much. Thank you so much. So again, as we end the conversation community, we will be back here next Wednesday. I cannot wait to see you all next Wednesday. As always, it's always a pleasure to be in the midst of the conversation community. Y'all have a great evening, and remember to show the world who you are, and don't allow the world to tell you who you are. Have a good night. Peace out.
Peace.